Truth, lies, shenanigans.
Abi, let's talk about Ukraine.
Yes, let's. On Thursday, February 24th, Russia launched a large scale invasion against the Ukraine, its neighbor to the southwest, marking a dramatic escalation of the Russia Ukrainian war that began in 2014. So, troops have slowly been advancing, move towards the capital city of Kyiv, which most people pronounce as Kiev. I was corrected just before the show. They have taken control of an airbase near the capital city of Kyiv, an airport in Gostomel, the nuclear plant in Chernobyl, Snake Island, and I'm going to stop right there and just get initial impressions from the panel on Russia's unprovoked attack.
Let's start with Liz.
I hate it. But I hate that I have to defend why we should care about it. That's been my biggest topic of conversation this entire week or the past 4 days, if you will. Why should we care about, Kyiv? Why should we care about Ukraine when all of this other stuff is going on in other countries and cities? And it's just like,
Or in our
okay,
country for that.
do you have a minute for me to break it down? Do you have a minute for me to break it down?
Break it down.
So yeah, it's awful. It's awful, and people aren't seeing the bigger picture. Putin is, talking about he has a very Adolf Hitler ideology where he thinks he has the right to be the superpower, where he has the right to all of these other countries. The whole point of this invasion is because he's pissed that Ukraine got its independence in 91, as did Latvia, as did Estonia, as did Lithuania. And so he's now trying to reclaim all of those cities, oh, I'm sorry, all of those countries as Russian. That's the only point of contention with this. And you could also include Poland, which is on the border. You can
Yeah.
include Belarus, which is on the northern border. Like, it's not going to stop just with Ukraine. And
Hmm.
even yesterday, he threatened nuclear intervention. So
Mm-hmm.
there's a big picture with this that everyone should be concerned about. So that's
Yeah.
why I'm just like, it's 2022, y'all. Like, come
Yeah.
on, really?
So Mike Wolf actually said at the top of the show, remember, it's Ukraine, not the Ukraine. Um,
Yeah, I think people get taken aback when they see, like, because it starts with the vowel, right? They want to put the article "the" in front of it, but it's Ukraine. It's just Ukraine. You wouldn't say the
yeah,
France,
yeah.
the Spain. It's just Ukraine.
Mike Winter also
Yeah.
pointed out 352 civilians killed so far. Paulette Bertrand says Putin's war. Micah, what are your
Yeah.
thoughts?
Ooh.
Yeah, this is terrible, and the Hitler comparison is not overblown. Like it is. This is the playbook. Now Hitler did it in a much timelier fashion, right? But
Yeah.
this is the playbook, and if we allow things like this to happen, it's going to be bad for everyone. Um, and you have to keep in mind, for those of you for some reason that like are like, who cares? Like a people are not its government.
Mhm.
I mean, I
Mm,
can't imagine I can't
yes.
I can't
Yes.
imagine that people in this country who don't care, like people are not its government. There are a bunch of innocent people there. There are people who are taking up arms to defend their nation, something that people
Yeah.
in this country claim that they care about, claim that they would do. I've read a story. I read a very sad story about a Ukrainian soldier who he sacrificed himself. He sacrificed himself to blow up a bridge just so that Russian tanks wouldn't get closer to them,
Wow.
and he couldn't get out, and he was just like, "Don't worry, I got it." And then an explosion, and it's amazing. It's harrowing. It's scary, man. It's scary. And this is the world needs to be on notice, man. The world
Yeah.
really does need to be on notice.
To Micah's point, and Micah actually made a good part of my point. It was I sit here imagining myself. as a Ukrainian uh, in the city and trying to get out because I know that my home is about to be attacked by a huge power that's greater than my country's power, and it's unlikely that my country would win. So my home will be taken back over. If I'm 30 something years old, then I had no idea what it was like to be a part of Russia. That doesn't compute to me. Like, what were you talking about? I was part of Russia. Um, because that wasn't the case for anyone who's in that age group. So being someone who is in that place, in that time, I would frighten. I saw long lines of people at the gas stations, on the highways trying to get out. It's scary. It's scary.
It's
For me.
very scary. It's very scary.
For
So
me.
I enjoy what your comments, and I mean it definitely mirrors what I'm feeling, what I'm thinking, and just back to what Liz and Micah alluded to when we were talking about Putin. I know that we've referred to him as a czarist on several occasions, and Neil, this would be a good time to pull up the map
Sure.
because during his speeches, Putin has made no qualms about talking about territories that were part of the Soviet Union. And at the height of the Soviet Union, if you take a look at it, part of Finland, Ukraine, um, Georgia, Poland. That's terrifying because how long term are his ambitions? What does he really want to do? Because he's an oligarch, he seeks power, and by undergoing this process, he is going to solidify his position in history. I have a friend in Poland, and Neil, when you're talking about lineups at the gas station, the people in Poland are freaking out too because they've been watching Putin's ambitions for months. My friend has all of her family's papers at the ready to
Mm,
get out of Dodge when
mm.
necessary. The panic has already begun in Poland. People are buying up gas. People are going to the bank and pulling out as much money as they can. Um, Liz, are you hearing anything from your friends in Finland on this one?
So I haven't heard anything yet, right? But remember, Finland used to be part of Russia way in the day, way back at the end of the 19th century, early 20th century. My Finnish grandfather fought in the First World War, right? Actually, I'm sorry, the Second World War. Um, and we once had, when I was there, we had another exchange student from Estonia. And I hate to say this, but he wouldn't let her in his house because at that time,
Mm.
Estonia had just gotten independence from Russia. So he still saw her as Russian. He still saw her as the enemy, as the person he was fighting back in the 40s. And he wanted no part of it. And I just internally, I laugh. I'm like, wow, a black girl is being accepted over this white Estonian girl, right? But the sentiments are very real. They're very real. And when I started to listen more over, I would say over the past 2 years, because this isn't something that happened within the past couple of months. This has been
Nope.
ratcheting up for years. And when I started to pay attention to what Putin was saying and how he really thinks that he has a right to Ukraine, to all of those other countries, including Estonia. I've been to Estonia on several occasions. The Estonian language actually is more similar, even though it used to be a part of Russia, right? It's more similar to the Finnish language than it is to Russian. Like I can understand and converse with an Estonian way more. So I don't speak a lick of Russian at all. Um,
Yep.
but it's one of those things where I'm like, I don't get why people don't understand how this is a problem, how this is threatening. Because today it's Ukraine, tomorrow it's all of these other countries, and it's a sign that we may go back to the Cold War. And I get it, like a lot of this generation, they didn't live through the Cold War. We did. Everyone on this panel did.
Let's get to these
They didn't
comments real
live
And
quick.
going
I'm so
through,
glad you brought that
the
up,
threat
Liz,
of
because there's another segment that I want to talk about after Neil goes to the comments.
All right. Let's see. So we said so. Mike Wolf clarified it was called the Ukraine when part of the Soviet Union when it was part of the Soviet Union to designate that it was only a region of a larger country. Mike Winter says he and Alf
Sounds a
need to
little
go sit in a
American.
corner and measure their junk together. This narcissistic behavior is such a maladaptive response to childhood trauma. Interesting. Robin Johnson, I am so disturbed at the right rewriting Russia as a Christian country to appeal to the evangelicals.
Speak on it.
Yep.
Speak
Paulette
on it.
Bertrand says there are
Speak
no
on it.
winners in this. Probably just 15 to 20 seconds, please.
Yeah, well, that's it. I really feel like this is playing out like an episode of The Americans. Ronald Reagan has to be rolling over in his grave because today's Republicans are a shadow of what they used to be. The GOP is supporting Putin just so that Biden will become weaker. And then Putin's got to be loving that American politicians and Fox News support him on national television. It's
Trump
showing
called
that there
Putin a
is,
genius this week. Trump
this
called
is
Putin a
looking like a
genius this week.
this is a long-term KGB operation. The misinformation and disinformation that they have will continue to subvert American politics. And I mean, it's scary.
All right.
What's
Is this
happening is
truth,
scary.
lies, or shenanigans?
Oh, this is just awful. This is just awful.
Yeah, it's all of it. It's all of it. Like,
True. It is definitely
yeah,
some truth to it because of it's definitely
But
shenanigans
I
on
think we
Putin's
should
part.
I think we should give props to Rob B for, mentioning the TV show The Americans, one of my favorite TV shows of all time. Yeah, it's if you haven't watched it, find it somewhere to stream. Amazing, amazing show.
Okay. Now we had our fan